Hello everyone, welcome back to Baji Rao IAS Academy. We have been discussing General Studies paper 3 of UPSC Mains 2023. Now, today's question is winning the hearts and minds. This is 150 words question. Okay, this is just a 150 words question. The question is winning hearts and minds of in terrorism affected areas is an essential step in restoring the trust of the population. To discuss the measures adopted by the government in this respect as part of the conflict resolution in Jammu and Kashmir. It is a lengthy question, no doubt about that, but you need to write all the parts which are given in the question. So you can write those parts in a very concise manner so that you can meet the word limit of 150 words. So this question has been asked particularly in the backdrop of growing radicalism and growing militancy in the state of in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, in order to prevent or to reduce the growing levels of radicalization and militancy, the government has come up with various measures. The first and the foremost measure the government has followed was abolition of Article 370. So recently, in 2019 itself, the government has revoked Article 370 that gives special status to Jammu and Kashmir, and that makes Jammu and Kashmir separate from the other states. However, winning the hearts and minds is very important in fight against terrorism, particularly in those affected areas. How can we win the hearts and minds of the people? By providing them a better infrastructure, providing them employment opportunities, housing, and better living standards, education, healthcare. So this is one way through which we can win the hearts and minds of the people in terrorist affected areas, and this is what exactly the government has been doing in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, when you write introduction for this question, you just have to introduce what exactly winning heart and minds program of the government, right? So this is a primary principle where this method is being used to counter the insurgency. So not just militancy, but also being used to counter insurgency. Now, insurgency we can see in regions, northeastern regions. So therefore, the winning hearts and minds program so can be described simply as people oriented process for establishing human social political linkages. So it deals with establishing a robust human social and political linkages at various levels so that the government would be able to win the trust of the people, and that would reduce the militancy, the growing levels of militancy and radicalization in that particular state. However, we can say that it is a common good because it reduces the militancy, establishes peace and law and order in that state, and it also reduces the government's need to spend more resources on curbing or preventing militancy. On the other hand, it will also build a concept of nationhood. Okay, so how it build a concept of nationhood? By integrating those people who are earlier, considered as alleviated, separated, isolated. Okay, so it is a common good approach. Now, the winning hearts and minds approach involves a three-pronged approach. Okay, so this three-pronged approach consists of firstly the people-friendly military operations. So the military operations are being undertaken by the security forces, but they are very often people-friendly. There will be a minimum casualty on the side of civilians, and at the same time those military operations which would benefit the civilians establish peace, law and order. Now the second is public information and perception management is also very important. So the overall public information, so it shapes the perception of the people towards the security forces and towards government also. So therefore the public information and perception management also constitute a key pillar in the overall approach of winning hearts and minds. Now, apart from that, the civic actions are also very important because the developmental work, constructing infrastructure in those areas, backward areas, when infrastructure is being developed, industries were, industries are also allowed, or industries that could be an incentive for the industries to, come and invest in those areas, and that would provide employment opportunities, social security, and social safety for the people who are living in those areas. Now, the winning hearts and minds is essential step. This is the first part of the answer. Okay, so winning hearts and minds is actually an essential step in restoring the trust of the people in terrorism affected areas. Firstly, it would help build the trust. Okay, now how it could help build the trust? It opens the communication channels between the civilians, security forces, and the government. Now, when it opens the communication channels, that would result in a huge community engagement. Now, community engagement would result in, capacity building, or a building of trust and confidence among the different levels of people. So therefore, it would overall foster trust. So this trust allows for collaboration between the government and the community as well. Now, in a nutshell, it helps in countering terrorism and also promotes peace in that particular area. Now, after that, terrorism, we know that terrorism is actively gets support. Terrorism is also receives some sort of support from the local people. So therefore, we need to look at the root cause of this challenge. Who are actually supporting these terrorist organizations? So whether the direct support or the indirect support by those local populations. So measures when we are able to take measures to the hearts and minds of the people win the hearts and minds of the people, so that will significantly help in dismantling the support mechanisms. Now, they will not support the terrorist elements or terrorist organizations no longer. So therefore, the overall program of winning hearts and minds is essentially focused on these multifaceted approaches. Now, after that, the youth disillusionment is also a very important aspect in this overall strategy, because youth are the ones who actively support the terrorist elements. If they are disenfranchised, they can support the terrorist elements, and they are easily attracted towards the radicalization. So therefore, there should be an attempt to make sure that the youth will not be attracted towards those terrorist organizations. There was an instance where in Jammu and Kashmir itself, Hizbul Mujahideen, a terrorist organization. In that particular terrorist organization, a Burhan Wani, a young Jammu Kashmir resident, joined. So that led to the a motivation and inspiration for several Jammu and Kashmir youth to be part of the terrorist organizations, because the kind of social media, making him a hero of Jammu and Kashmir, that inspires and motivates other people. So therefore, the information management and the perception management of the people is also very important, because a terrorism or radicalization is no good for any party, whether it is for people, the civilians, whether it is for the government, or whether it is for the overall peace and law and order situation of that particular territory. Now, after that, the government has also been focusing on providing opportunities. Now, when people are provided with enough economic opportunities, they increasingly engage in certain activities. For example, there's a need to provide education for the people. There's a need to provide education for the people. Along with the education, skill development also a major requirement. so that they can get the meaningful employment or the gainful employment opportunities. So when they get employment opportunities, so that ensures some sort of a social safety and social security, and they will not engage in such activities. Now, we have discussed some essential steps in the process, in the approach of winning hearts and minds. Now, after that, the post insurgency stability is also important. Imagine a particular region, for example, the Jammu and Kashmir itself. Now, this particular region has been impacted with the highest levels of insurgency in India. So, no doubt about that. But this post insurgency stability involves a number of measures that need to be taken. The measures include deployment of security forces, intelligence, skill development, education, infrastructure development, better healthcare facilities, and reducing the number of deaths of civilian population due to militancy. So therefore the post instability, post insurgency stability also occupies a very highest importance in this overall approach. Now, the question has also asked us to write some measures which are taken by the government in this regard, right? So, winning hearts and minds, how the government has taken various, what are the various measures which are taken for winning hearts and minds in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The first and foremost measure which we need to discuss is abrogation of Article 370. So the government has abrogated Article 370 in the year 2019 August. So earlier Article 370 used to provide a special status for Jammu and Kashmir, and it is used to be treated as a separate territory from the rest of the states. However, we need to understand one thing, that it is just a temporary provision. Okay, it is just a temporary provision, not a permanent provision in the constitution. So therefore there is also a belief that there is also an apprehension that Article 370 would give much more powers to the local elements in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and that led to the increasing instances of radicalism, terrorism, and militancy in the Jammu and Kashmir. So that led to constant law and order problems, lack of peace, and increased deaths of outsiders and even the military personnel. So therefore, when the government has abrogated Article 370, it has given more powers for the central government, and the central government has been continuously investing in improving the infrastructure. And the one essential thing that the government has been doing in Jammu and Kashmir, along with infrastructure development, is skill development of women. Skill development of women, particularly in several fields, so that women can become entrepreneurs. And not just that, women can also earn a decent livelihood. So, Article 370 led to the improved security situation in Jammu and Kashmir. So after that, the Operation Sadbhavana has also been launched by the government. So this initiative was launched by Army in the year 1998. So this particular initiative of Operation Sadbhavana is aimed at winning the hearts and minds of the local population. Okay, so how it wins the hearts and minds? Because it involves various communities within the Jammu and Kashmir in the welfare projects and welfare programs. So when it involves, it reduces the exclusion errors. So people will not be excluded from the welfare projects and developmental programs, and also benefiting the greater number of people in the valley. So therefore, Operation Sadbhavana has a significantly improved the trust. Okay, so significantly built trust among the people of Jammu and Kashmir towards Indian Army and also the Indian government. Now, in order to make sure the youth gets employment, the government has also launched various skill development programs. So those skill development programs include Himayat Mission, right? So the first is Himayat Mission, Ustad, Udan, Umid, and Nayi Manzil. So these are various occasional education and skill development programs that are being launched by the government of India. So these programs are aimed at the improving skills, employability, and entrepreneurship across different levels, and that particularly focuses on youth and women. So the government has also been organizing national integration tours. So around Indian Army has organized around 100 national integration tours for young Kashmiris every year. Now, so what happens with these integration tours? Those young Kashmiris will visit the rest of the India. So therefore, they form a better opinion about the nation. So therefore, the integration would become a possibility, and they no longer look as a separatist outsiders, or they are isolated. So they are a part of India's overall culture. After that, the government has also launched Mission Pahal in the year 2021. So, as part of the Mission Pahal, the officers, the army officers, the civilian officers, so they used to conduct face-to-face interactions with the Kashmiri youth, so that they can take up their grievances of the people of Kashmir. And it also builds some sort of trust, and it discourages people joining the terrorist organizations. Prime Minister Development Package has also been launched. Okay, so the overall value of the Prime Minister Development Package was worth of 80,000 crores, and this Prime Minister Development Project has involved various initiatives. So they are particularly aimed at improving healthcare, education, and also developing infrastructure in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So this primarily aimed at developing human resources in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, after that, the panchayat reformation has also been undertaken by the government. So there are various local panchayati raj institutions in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So therefore, these panchayat delimitation has been conducted in 2022. So fresh elections were also held. So in a way, it provides an opportunity for the local communities to elect their respective representatives at the local level. So therefore, it has also resulted in greater democratic decentralization, greater democratic decentralization in those areas. So overall, it improves the governance and participation of the people in the governance process, and that is the essence. That is the essence of preventing the militancy, preventing the growth of militancy in those uh, uh, terrorism affected areas. Now, you have addressed all the parts in this question, and in the conclusion, you just have to write about the need for lasting peace and stability in Jammu and Kashmir. So, no doubt that achieving lasting peace and stability is requires a multifaceted approach, because it is a very complex in nature. When people are supporting the passive support or the direct or indirect support to terrorist elements, and also the difficult terrain in the region, and overall disaffection of the people towards the government, the overall way of tackling the terrorism in the Jammu and Kashmir Valley has become more and more complex. So, therefore, it requires a multifaceted approach and a strong commitment from the government side as well. So, commitment in terms of reducing the grievances of the local people, and it should also provide better opportunities for the growth and prosperity in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So therefore, overall, the government has to adopt an inclusive approach. So inclusive approach where the development and the growth would take into account the all the people. Okay, so take into account all the people. So therefore, over a period of time, uh, people of Jammu and Kashmir will no longer support terrorism in the region, and they themselves consider are part of are uh, integrated into the nation. Okay, so this is how you need to conclude this answer. Now the next question is unmanned aerial vehicles. So earlier discussed question and this question are asked by the UPSC as part of internal security. security. Now, the weightage of internal security has been constantly increasing when we compare this with environment and even science and technology. So therefore, the internal security, UPSC has asked at least two 15 marker questions and two 10 marker questions from internal security alone. So 50 marks. So the question is the use of unmanned aerial vehicles by our adversaries across the borders to ferry arms, ammunition, drugs is a serious threat to the national security. So therefore, we need to comment on the measures being taken to tackle this threat. So not just write the whenever the directive word is asked to comment on something. So you just not you not just write the measures, but you should also write the shortcomings and the effectiveness of those measures which are taken up by the government in this particular regard. And you have to give a proper suggestion, a solution, so that these instances can be prevented. Now, in the first part of the answer, how UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, have been facilitating the the ferry of arms, ammunition, and drugs. Now, if you look at India's borders, so they are porous. Okay, they are porous in nature. Whether if we look at the border in the eastern border with Bangladesh and even with Myanmar and with countries like Pakistan, so they are like a porous borders. However, in recent times, at India Punjab borders, there has been an increasing instances of UAVs being used for ferrying drugs and arms and ammunition. So not just in the border region of Punjab, but it has also increased across the LOC, the line of control between India and Pakistan. So therefore, the because when those adversaries tried to transport these items physically, then therefore there would be a casualty. Okay, and those attempts were also foiled by our security forces. So therefore, UAVs have a very less risk of transporting or ferrying these arms, ammunition, and drugs. Okay, now in this regard, you just have to introduce what exactly the unmanned aerial vehicles. So they are commonly called as drones. We all know about the drones and the increasing importance of drones in current times. So therefore, because the government has also come up with the drone policy, and several state governments they independently have the drone policies because of its security implications and its increased potential in various areas, for example delivery of e-commerce products, and drones are being used in environmental protection because assesses it assesses the damage being done at various, for example, aquaculture, wetlands, and even the environment. And it can even be used to control the forest fires when it comes to environmental protection. And it also has a significant benefits in agriculture as well. So, however, these are all positive benefits of drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, but it still have a very significant negative consequences in terms of security, in terms of ferrying drugs, etc., and even the surveillance as well by the non-state elements. So in this context, we need to understand what exactly are unmanned aerial vehicles. So they are they are drones. Unmanned aerial vehicles are drones. Now, these drones are actually the remotely controlled and remotely piloted. So they are under the control, but they are actually remotely piloted by human beings themselves. So it has, as earlier we have discussed, it has a widespread use and popularity across various sectors. So the sectors include the agriculture sector, photography, surveillance, and logistics. So, along with the positive benefits, the misuse of drones and drone technology has also been increased. So, there were instances of drugs being ferried into the you know Punjab region of India from the Pakistani side. If you look at India's geographical position, India is between the Golden Crescent and the Golden Triangle. So they are topmost drug produced regions in the world. So if you look at India's map here, something like this, okay. So the Golden Crescent and the Golden Triangle, they are just located here. So the drugs being produced here are being transferred, for example, shipped into India, and India has also become a largest consumer of these drugs because of several illegal channels that were in existence. Now, the use of unmanned aerial vehicles by adversaries in India as a security threat. So this is the first part of the answer, and we not yet commented on the measures that were taken by the government of India. So, firstly, use of unmanned aerial vehicles by adversaries of India, how it poses a security threat. So, firstly, the arms and ammunition being shipped with the help of drones from the Pakistani side into the Indian side. Now, it is not just limited to the Pakistani side and to Indian side, but even the insurgent elements, the insurgency elements, uh, also receiving arms and ammunition through drones in the northeast region. Okay, so after that, the drug trafficking, the drug menace is also a major problem across the border states, whether it is the northeastern side or it is the western borders. So the drug trafficking and the drug abuse is a major menace. So therefore, it enables the drugs actively enables the distribution of drugs to local communities, and it also contributing to social and security related challenge across the country. Now, the improvised explosive device attacks. Uh, these are also controlled or conducted by the drones itself, the improvised explosive device. So that is called as IED attacks. So when the drones are being controlled by the human beings itself, the drones are, the explosives are being packed inside the drones, and they are being flied to the targeted regions, whether it is security forces or civilians, and just they explode on their own because it already contains the improvised explosive devices, and this route is being very extensively used by the terrorist organizations and terrorist elements. And in fact, there were instances of such improvised explosive devices being ferried by the drones in the state of Jammu and Kashmir against the security forces. Now, after that, there is recently an instance of this improvised explosive device was exploded in a Jammu airbase. In Jammu airbase, and this was organized with the help of unmanned aerial vehicles or drones. Now, it also has the unmanned aerial vehicles also have a significant geopolitical escalation. How it could have a geopolitical escalation? Because in recent times, you have seen how a military general of Iran was killed by, uh, in fact, USA using drones. Now, Al Jawahari of Al Qaeda chief. So, Al Qaeda chief Al Jawahari was also killed by USA using drones in Afghanistan. So, not just this, but in fact, the other countries like Pakistan and China have been increasingly using these drones for surveillance, and therefore they are also threatening India's overall territorial integrity. Territorial integrity. So therefore, if you look at this, these drones, they are increasingly used for surveillance across line of control and also line of actual control by both Pakistan and China. Now, the security of critical infrastructure is also important. So every country has its own critical infrastructure. So what if these drones are being used to attack those critical infrastructure? In fact, in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia also, their critical infrastructure was attacked by militant forces from Yemen. So they were earlier backed by Iran. So therefore, UAVs are also being increasingly used to attack these critical infrastructure installations. So, for example, it may be a power plant, a nuclear power plant. So that could, you can imagine the kind of destruction it could create if such a drone attacks a nuclear power plant or even a normal power plant. So therefore, this has to be properly taken care of. So the second part of the question is measures being taken to tackle this threat. So what measures the government has already taken to tackle the threat of UAVs, to tackle the threat of UAVs being used for ferrying arms, ammunition, and drugs. The government has come up with Drone Rules 2021. Earlier also I have told you that the drone rules were formulated to regulate the drones in India. So the operation of drones, because see, the drones will also pose a significant threat to the civil aviation industry. So they, in order to avoid such major accidents and in order to protect the territorial integrity, sovereignty, and security of the state, the government of India has also come up with drone rules. So the objective of drone rules 2021 is not just to regulate drones, but also facilitate the indigenous drone manufacturing. So it provides a wide range of incentives for indigenous manufacturers. Now when it provides such a drones, because it has a huge benefits when it comes to the online delivery of important commodities and also agriculture sector, and even in the security as well, because now the warfares are being fought using drones. So in this context, the drone rules 2021 were formulated by the government. Now after that, the government has also taken certain institutional measures in terms like the Ministry of Home Affairs, which largely manages the internal security of our country. So, in this, ministry, there is an anti-rogue drone technology committee was established. So, anti-rogue drone technology means the drone technology that is being used not for the good purposes, rather for the purposes which are detrimental for the national security. That could prove, provide that could result in a significant threat to the human population's safety and security. So, therefore, the Anti-Rogue Drone Technology Committee has also established in the Ministry of Home Affairs. So, what is the overall responsibility of this committee is to suggest measures and also look into the security threats being created by these the rogue drone technologies. So therefore, the preparedness of any such attacks would be robust, and it would also suggest the policy guidelines to minimize such things, and it would also equipped with better intelligence. When it is equipped with the better intelligence, it could take appropriate measures in this regard. So this is part of the institutional measures, and the other institutional measure is that the Indian Army Aviation Corps. So this is also responsible for offensives and drone counter measures. Okay, so the Indian Army Aviation Corps. Now after that, the indigenous anti-drone systems were also developed. Now, indigenous anti-drone systems, they are particularly aimed at countering the drones from the adversaries, whether they are carrying weapons, arms, ammunition, or whether they are carrying improvised explosive devices. Right? So, this indigenous anti-drone system usually counter the drones coming from the adversaries. Now, for example, the Indrajal by Hyderabad-based Green Robotics. Okay, so this Indrajal has been developed particularly to counter the anti-drone systems. So, apart from that, the hard kill or kinetic measure. So this hard kill or the kinetic measure is also a anti-drone system. So it actually detect the drones. When an enemy uses drones, and these drones are being detected, deterred, and destroyed by the this D4S. D4 means the anti-drone system, drone detection, deter, and destroy system. Okay, so this is developed by the Defense Research and Development Organization, and it is a very proactive protection mechanism. Very proactive protective mechanism. Now, so the drone development and the acquisition technology has also been developed by the Defense Research and Development Organization. So the government has significantly improving in the drone technologies as well. For example, India has already developed various drones like Nishant, Rastum, Mal, and also the foreign made variants were also acquired. For example, Israel made Heron and MQ Reaper. So these two were foreign drones, and these varieties are indigenously developed drones by Defense Research and Development Organization. So therefore, India has also been significantly increasing investment in drone technologies and promoting indigenous drone manufacturing and development to reap the benefits of such drones. So we have addressed the demand of the question. Now, in the conclusion, how you have to address this question, or to how you have to conclude this answer, you just write. There's a need for adopting the multifaceted approach. So, why there is a need to adopt such a multifaceted approach? Because the challenges which are created by these drones are not, they are also multifaceted in nature. So they are not just one or two challenges, but they are also multifaceted challenges. In order to tackle these multifaceted challenges, we need to follow the multifaceted approach as well. However, nowadays India aims to stay ahead of these evolving threat landscapes. Now, the threats, or the both conventional and non-conventional threats, so they are evolving over a period of time. So they are becoming more and more dynamic. They are more and more tech savvy. So adopting new technologies. So therefore, India has also been focusing on developing itself with these evolving threat perceptions and threat landscapes. And the major aim and the major focus of the government of India is protecting its infrastructure critical infrastructure that is very sensitive for any government or any country. And along with maintaining critical information infrastructure, the government has also been focusing on territorial integrity, safety, and security of its citizens. So you can conclude this answer by such a conclusion, right? Now the next question is that this is a 250 word answer. You have to write 250 word answer for this question. So this question with respect to unemployment. So if you look at the syllabus of General Studies paper 3, the unemployment is the first and foremost topic in syllabus itself. Now the question is with respect to the unemployment problem in India. So the most of the unemployment which we see in India is structural in nature. Okay, so it is mostly structural in nature. So in the first part of the answer, you can, in introduction itself, you can write about the data on the unemployment in India in the first part of the answer. And in the second part of the answer, you have to discuss about the methodology which we follow in order to calculate unemployment rates in India. So after that, you have to suggest better ways to calculate unemployment. So therefore, this question has three parts. So you have to address three parts, and in the conclusion itself, you need to emphasize on creation of employment, creation of more and more employment, because we have a huge demographic dividend. In order to better use the existing demographic dividend, it is very important for us to invest in employment creation. Now, in the first introduction, so you have to write the structural unemployment. What is the definition? You can also introduce with the unemployment data, the first way of writing introduction. And the second way of writing introduction is you can also define what exactly the structural unemployment. So the structural unemployment actually arises because of the disparity between the skills already held by the people and skills required by the industry. So it indicates there's a possible mismatch between the industry and the workforce and the skills a workforce already have. So in earlier lectures, we also discussed about the industry academia linkages, industry academia linkages. So why we have discussed this? Because when there is an industry academia linkages, the skills which are acquired by the students are aligned with the industry needs, and that is very important. These skills have to be aligned with the industry needs. So this structural unemployment in India is because even though not most of the people are formally skilled, it is just around 4.68 percentage, so less number of people are formally skilled. First thing, even though people are skilled, but those skills are not aligned with the industry demands. So that has resulted in structural unemployment, and it has become a long-term phenomenon in Indian economy because the growth in India is often termed as a jobless growth. It is often called as jobless growth. Now, in this context, first we have to discuss the reasons behind the unemployment problem in India. Okay, so why the unemployment has particularly because of structural in nature. The first part of the answer. Now, the skill gap. So, skill gap is nothing but what we have discussed in the introduction itself. So, skill gap means the people who are already in the workforce and the requirement of the skills by the industry, or people who have different skills than what industry exactly requires. Now if you look at some data, over 80 percentage of people who are unemployable for any job in the knowledge economy. Okay, so why? Because they lack skills, they lack required skills. So when they have skills, then they will be easily employable, and that was highlighted by the India Skill Report 2021. So the second major cause of this problem in India is informal sector predominance. Now, if you look at the data in India, 90 percentage of total workforce is engaged in the informal sector alone. Now, this informal sector is characterized by lack of job security, income security, and social security, and no social safety benefits for the employees. So, informal sector, we can construction sector is an example of the informal sector. Now, in this particular informal sector, so the small scale industries like small scale micro MSMEs, so they have the organized labor. Since 90 percentage of our economy is the informal economy in nature, this has also resulted in structural unemployment because there was no attempt on the part of the MSMEs as well to improve the skills of people who are already part of the workforce. So therefore, the productivity of these employees would lesser than the actual potential, and that also results in disguised unemployment. Now the next point is people often lack the job security. People lack the social benefits. What are the social benefits? Social benefits like after retirement, people will have access to pension, provident fund, and even social benefits like the maternity care benefits for the women employees, so the paid maternity leave for the women employees. So therefore, they lack job security, social benefits, and even the career progression as well. So because of this, it has resulted in significant underemployment and instability within the economy. Now the next major problem behind increasing levels of unemployment, and unemployment is primarily a structural phenomena, is population growth in India, right? Because the population expands, the economy must generate the sufficient number of employment opportunities. But in India, the population has been increasing, but the employment is not sufficient. In fact, India's growth is called as jobless growth because a majority of the investments are in service sector, and service sector is not a labor intensive industry. Rather, it is a capital intensive industry and it requires less labor. However, on the other hand, sectors like manufacturing, industry, agriculture, so they require more labor. So they are labor intensive industries, but their productivity is declining. And in several sectors, the overall productivity is zero. More number of people are being engaged in those sectors with less productivity. So that is the major problem in India's unemployment. And after that, there are also huge regional disparities as well. So regional disparities in terms, for example, states like Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Karnataka. So in those states, people are better equipped to be part of the workforce and take up new skills which are required by the industry. On the other hand, people from UP and Bihar, so they lack proper skill sets, they lack education. So because of these reasons, they are migrating from those underdeveloped areas to these other states like Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. And these regional disparities have also been contributing to unemployment and structural disparities. So if those states like UP and Bihar, if they invest in education and skill development of the workforce, then this situation will not arise. In fact, industries will also be established in those states and gainful employment opportunities are provided for the people. And the fourth aspect is the agricultural dominance. We are very sure that more than 45 percentage of India's workforce is still engaged in the agriculture sector. But overall contribution of agriculture sector to GDP is around 18 percentage. So if we look at the maximum GDP of maximum contribution of agriculture to GDP is just 18 percentage. So much lower than the manufacturing sector and even the service sector. So that is contributing around 45 percentage of India's GDP. Now this is where the major problem comes, and the people who are already engaged in the agriculture sector, they do not get sufficient amount of income through farming, and because of more number of people are engaged in the agriculture sector, the productivity also considered as a zero, right? So so therefore there is a need for shifting these excessive population from agriculture sector to other sectors like manufacturing and even to the service sector. Now, service sector is less labor intensive sector, but there is need to shift these populations from agriculture sector to the manufacturing sector and industry. When we develop skills, there's an opportunity for the self-employment of the people, and there's a growth of entrepreneurship within the manufacturing and also different industries. So that significantly helps in shifting excessive population from agriculture to these areas. Now, what methodology is being adopted to compute unemployment in the country? So this is the second part of the question. We need to address the methodology that is actually followed. Now, this part of the question is a little specific. You need to write how the unemployment is being calculated in India. So what measure is being used to calculate the unemployment in India? Firstly, the data source. The unemployment, the statistics of the entire country are taken by the National Sample Survey Organization, NSSO. Now this is called as National Statistical Organization as well. So this National Statistical Office uses the employee sample surveys. So this employee sample surveys will help estimate the employment and unemployment rates in Indian economy. Okay, so this will help estimating the employment and unemployment figures. The second method that is being used is employment classification. So the employment classification method is also being used to calculate unemployment in the country, because in this particular method the individuals or the workforce is being classified based on the usual principle approach. Usual principle approach. So this usual principle approach classifies individuals as employed. Okay, it classifies as employed, unemployed, and also not part of the labor force. Not part of the labor force. And this particular classification is based on the activity of these segments of the people in last 365 days. So this will also give a significant leads over the employment and unemployment situation in the country. Now after that, the current weekly status is also another method that is being used to calculate unemployment in the country. So it classifies individuals actually based on their activities during the reference week before the survey. Now after that, the segmented data analysis, that is also being used to calculate unemployment data. So now when it comes to the segmented data analysis, the workforce in the economy is actually segmented into different sections. For example, based on age, based on gender, education, so whether they are residing in urban areas and rural areas, so they are being segmented. So this segmentation of the workforce will give us important data, crucial data, and that crucial data is very important for the policymakers to come up with new policies that creates employment and entrepreneurship opportunities. So we have addressed the methodology, and the third part of the question is measures that need to be taken in order to overcome the shortages in the calculation of employment methodology. So firstly, we need to talk about the data timeliness. Yes, the data is available, the unemployment data is available in India, but the data is not available on timely basis. For example, if surveys started in the year 2020, then the survey results are available in the year 2023 or 2024. Now, such a huge time required for conducting overall survey would make the overall, objective of survey ineffective. So therefore, the data timeliness is also very important. Secondly, the informal sector. So when we have a large informal sector, we cannot come up with the accurate unemployment data. Now it is also very difficult to capture the unemployment data along with the presence of the informal care economy, the household economy, the woman. So the informal economy also makes calculation of employment is much more challenging. So therefore, the attempts must be needed to make sure that more and more workforce will be part of the formal sector. And the third approach would be the skill mismatch. There's a huge skill mismatch. A skill mismatch between, means that the industry required a certain sort of skills. On the other hand, the individuals possess skills which are outdated. So the industry requires new skills. On the other hand, the employees does not have such new skills. So this results in skill mismatch. So this skill mismatches provides into areas requiring workforce development. So therefore, we should also work on this skill mismatch. And apart from this, there's a need for regular reporting of the unemployment. So when we have such a regular reporting of unemployment data, it is also possible. It is also possible that we could, have a regular data-driven policies to prevent unemployment or to reduce or to limit the unemployment, and it also helps in timely decisions to address employment issues as they emerge. And in the conclusion, you just have to emphasize on the need for developing skills among the people and those skills which are required by the industry. So therefore, the structural unemployment could be further reduced or limited. So in this way, a demographic dividend can be best used, or it can be used in a best possible manner. So the next question is about the distinguishing the difference between care economy and monetized economy. So what exactly is the difference between the care economy and the monetized economy? This is the first. In the introduction itself, you have to write what is care economy and what is monetized economy. And in the next part of the answer, you have to distinguish the differences between care economy and the monetized economy. And you have to write how care economy brought into the monetized economy, so that that results in women empowerment, because in care economy women are mostly involved. So if we bring care economy into the monetized economy, that significantly results in the empowerment of women. Now, in the introduction itself, you just have to write care economy, what exactly the care economy is, and monetized economy. So they both are part of the economic activity. So they also help in shaping societies and livelihoods of the people. However, traditionally women have been the primary drivers or the primarily engaged in the care economy. So this has resulted in so if we wanted to empower women, so then we must make sure that the care economy is part of the monetized economy. So when the care economy is not part of the monetized economy, that will not have that will not result in significant benefits in terms of social security, social safety nets, income security, and even women faces abuse in the care economy itself. So therefore, overall protection and empowerment of women by bringing care economy into the monetized economy. Now, in this context, first we can start this with definitions of care economy and monetized economy. So the care economy revolves around unpaid or underpaid work. For example, if a woman performs a household work, so that can also be considered as a care economy. For example, looking after children and looking after the elders. So that is also considered as a care economy, part of care economy. But in traditional households or in the households, generally women are not paid for their care work. And this is primarily shouldered by women, essentially for human well-being. On the other hand, the monetized economy involves activities with monetary transactions and GDP contribution. So the whatever economic activities which are part of the monetized economy are considered are for the calculation of GDP. Okay, so they are considered as part of the GDP. The next factor would be nature of the work in the care economy and also the monetized economy. So in the care economy, child rearing, elderly care, and household chores. Now, this is part of the care economy. On the other hand, for example, banking, service sector, so they are more often considered as a monetized economy. Secondly, when it comes to the recognition aspect, uh, the care economy is often unrecognized. This is not very often recognized since it is not part of the GDP contributions. However, monetary economy is constantly tracked and valued in economic terms. When it comes to the gender disparity, women are very often contribute without pay and social recognition. But in the monetized economy itself, there's a some sort of a gender disparity as well. But we can also see some more balanced gender participation in the monetized economy. When it comes to the economic impact of the care economy, so it is considered as foundational in the functioning of societies, because it looks after the overall socialization of the children and the healthcare requirements of the family members. So therefore it is considered as a foundational for the functioning of societies, and its economic value remains largely invisible. However, on the other hand, it directly impacts national and economic indicators. Now, the transition potential. So, if we make right interventions into the care economy, that could be resulted in integration of care economy into the monetized economy. However, when it comes to the monetized economy, there's also some sort of informal sector within the monetized economy, even though it is recognized, even though it is part of the overall national income calculation, but the informal economy need to be taken care of. Now, the bringing care economy into the monetized economy. Now, what steps we need to undertake to bring the care economy into the monetized economy so that it results in empowering women. Firstly, we could undertake the policy reforms. Now, the policy reforms in terms like, for example, we have brought Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So, this Manrega scheme provides wages for certain community and care related activities in rural areas. So, such policies are required to monetize the care economy. And secondly, there should be a flexible work management because when we encourage businesses to come up with such flexible work managements, so this could also accommodate women's caregiving responsibilities. So whatever caregiving responsibilities women already have, that could be better accommodated by the flexible work management. For example, remote work or part-time opportunities can enable women to balance work and caregiving. For example, the emerging fields like gig economy, and freelancing work. So that could provide significant opportunities for women. So the third aspect would be skilling and training of women. Now, the skilling, training, capacity building, and education of women is also very important and very crucial because this could result in women they can become financially independent, and when they become better skilled, better educated, they can also explore the opportunities as well. So in that way the care economy can be better monetized. The self-help groups could also play a very crucial and important role in monetizing the care economy. So because they can also collectively engage in care economy and also other economic activities based on the collective principle. So there are examples like Kudumbashri, a very famous example in Kerala, and Jivika. This is also a very famous example that is from Bihar. Now after that, the maternity and child care benefits. We should not forget how the care economy as a foundation enhances the process of socialization when it comes to the young children. So that is a very crucial element for creation of social capital and making children a better citizens for tomorrow. Discipline, inculcating the values of discipline, punctuality, etc. So even the school also plays a very crucial role, but care economy has a very important role in this regard. So this is all about this question. Now in the conclusion part, you have to emphasize on the need for recognition of the care economy, so that how that could have a multiplier effect, the spillover effect that could empower women when it comes to the participation of women in the workforce. So this is how you can conclude this answer. So that's all for today, and in tomorrow's lecture we will discuss a few more questions. Okay, so thank you so much.